The 1959 Promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act, a law of forced separation. Imagine being told that you are no longer a citizen of your own country, that the land where your ancestors lived for generations is no longer yours, and instead you now belong to a newly created homeland. This was the harsh reality imposed by the 1959 Promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act. The Promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act was a key apartheid law designed to strip black South Africans of their citizenship and force them into segregated, self-governing homelands that had no real economic or political power. The act was signed into law by Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd of the National Party, further entrenching racial segregation under apartheid. But what did this law really mean, and how did it change the lives of millions? The 1959 Promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act sought to redefine South Africa's political landscape by classifying black South Africans as citizens of their designated ethnic homelands rather than of South Africa itself. This legislation was a direct attempt to justify racial segregation under the guise of self-governance. Key provisions of the law included the classification of black South Africans into 8 ethnic groups, each assigned to its own homeland or Bantustan, the removal of black South Africans from the national voter roll, effectively stripping them of political representation in South Africa, the transfer of administrative control over black areas to tribal authorities controlled by the apartheid government, the illusion of self-governance, as these homelands remained economically dependent on South Africa and were never truly independent. The act was a critical step toward the creation of the Bantustans, which were used to forcibly relocate millions of black South Africans away from urban centers, consolidating white control over the country's most developed regions. The consequences of this law were devastating. Millions of black South Africans were forcibly removed from their homes and relocated to impoverished homelands with little infrastructure or economic opportunity. By assigning black South Africans to homelands, the apartheid government sought to deny them their rights as South African citizens, making it easier to exclude them from the country's political and economic system. The homelands were deliberately underdeveloped and had no real industry or employment opportunities, forcing black South Africans to work in white-controlled urban areas under strict labor laws. While these homelands had their own local governments, they were completely controlled by the apartheid regime, making any notion of self-governance meaningless. Despite the apartheid government's claims that the law was a step toward black self-determination, resistance movements quickly recognized it as a tool of oppression. The African National Congress, ANC, and the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC, strongly opposed the law, arguing that it was designed to further fragment black resistance and isolate communities from one another. Although the Bantustans were later dismantled in the 1990s as part of South Africa's transition to democracy, their legacy remains visible today. Many of these regions are still among the poorest and most underdeveloped parts of the country, highlighting the long-term effects of apartheid-era policies. South Africa is still grappling with the consequences of forced removals and economic inequality created by laws like the Promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act. What do you think should be done to address the inequalities left behind by apartheid? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video insightful, hit the like button and subscribe for more historical breakdowns.